Hey guys, welcome into the 14. My name's Nick Cole, and it's week 3 in the SEC football season. We're breaking down each matchup from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about the Georgia Southern Eagles visiting the Arkansas Razorbacks. This game is being played at Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. You can find it on TV on the SEC Network. Betting info on this game, opening line was Arkansas minus 18. It has shot up all the way to Arkansas minus 23.5 as of this recording. And the over-under, however, has stayed the same since opening at 52.5 on Sunday. So I'm bringing our betting analyst, Christopher Smith. Christopher, what do you make of that line moving so many points without the over-under moving with it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the spot Arkansas fans have been waiting to be in for a long time, favored by more than 3 touchdowns against a group of 5 team and looking like an SEC heavyweight. So we'll see how it suits them. And they got another huge matchup coming up the following week. So we'll see if they can take care of business at home. But Nick, why don't you give us Nick's news and notes and let us know what's going on around these two programs heading into this matchup?
Sure, let's start with some weather. It's going to be hot in Fayetteville on Saturday, a high of 88. And we got a little bit of wind to account for in this game, with winds about 9-10 miles an hour around kickoff. So otherwise, no chance of rain, no thunderstorms, anything like that. A lot of the rest of the league is sort of looking around, wondering if it's going to rain at their game, but I don't think we'll have that issue here. And then some of the things we're looking at from these two rosters in a news and notes standpoint is, how can I not start this discussion with just saying horns down, hogs up, right? That was a game in week 2 that said a lot about where Sam Pittman has this Arkansas program in just his second season in Fayetteville. They manhandled the Longhorns on their way to a 40-21 win in front of a raucous crowd, which, by the way, made it feel really great for college football to be back to me. You know, we've been through a lot in the last year and a half, and you saw that environment on ESPN in Fayetteville, and it just made me feel good to see SEC football back with some fans that were calling the hogs and having a good time and beating one of their former conference opponents, soon to be future conference opponents, right? Arkansas was a 7-point dog in that game and covered it pretty easily, obviously, with a 19-point margin of victory. And they also pushed the game over by scoring 40 points on their own there. So we hope they can recover from such a big emotional win, right? And from a financial standpoint, I hope that the Razorbacks have that $100,000 to cover the fine that the school got when the fans rushed the field at the end of the game. That was something to see. Probably every penny worth it, right? On the other side of this game, Georgia Southern, who we've come to respect as a group of 5 deep South type of team that you kind of know that you're going to get their best most of the time when they play these SEC schools, they're kind of off to a shaky start. They barely squeaked by Gardner-Webb in week 1, and then they fell hard in week 2 to Florida Atlantic. Willie Taggart's group beat them 38-6, and they scored the first touchdown of that game, and then were just blanked the rest of the game. They were outgained 528 yards to 254 yards. And one thing that I think you're going to talk about here in just a little bit that may have impacted that result is that their starting quarterback, Justin Tomlin's been out with a suspension for the first couple of games. So they should be anticipating getting him back for this Arkansas game. So that may change the way we view this game from a betting perspective. And the last thing I just want to talk about, I already kind of bragged on the Hogs a little bit, but they've been doing it in a really impressive fashion. I call it ground and pound here. They've got 578 yards rushing through the first 2 games, and 177 of that's from Traylon Smith, their best running back, but then 162 of it's from quarterback KJ Jefferson. So they're sort of finding that offensive rhythm, and if they find that on that side of the ball, I know that Barry Odom's defense has been locked in. So like you said, they're kind of looking like an SEC heavyweight. From a betting perspective, what do you take away from that win against Texas, and what are you seeing from Georgia Southern?
Yeah, so it was obviously a great win for the Razorbacks, but I think it said more about where Texas is right now than it did about Arkansas. And I mean, Arkansas is now 9-3 against the spread under Sam Pittman. So obviously they've been making bettors rich, and if you've been betting against them, you're hurting right now. But I mean, this was a quote unquote signature program win. I don't really know what that means, but people seem to say it for these kind of wins. Obviously, everyone's super excited. Um, you know, they also have what should be a huge game, assuming that Texas A&M and Arkansas both win this week. Next week, it will be a huge game against Texas A&M, and win that game, and you're in a national discussion, and people are saying maybe you're the team to challenge Alabama. And I think that's getting ahead of ourselves, but that's what's on the table if you're looking ahead a little bit to next week for Arkansas. So, this is what you call the ultimate sandwich spot. I mean, they're playing an option offense now. And, the quotes out of Arkansas this week are like, well, we worked on this during fall camp. I mean, I'm not buying that as like they're totally prepared to face an option offense now. It's definitely a different offense than what Texas ran and what Texas A&M will be running. But you mentioned Georgia Southern start. I mean, they're 0-2 against the spread, and they failed to cover the spread by almost 24 points a game in those two games. And Arkansas has been crushing the spread. So I guess you could make the argument that, if you're buying Arkansas, you're buying their stock at a really, really high point right now. And if you're selling Georgia Southern, then you're selling them at a really, really low point as well. So forgetting the spot and the offense, I mean, Arkansas's defense is legitimate, 29th in SP plus, allowing 2.7 yards per carry. And they're good at preventing big plays. That's kind of what Barry Odom's defense is known for. And actually with Georgia Southern, it's surprising how high they have rated in the explosive play department because of the fact they run the ball so often. But actually last year they were second in the country with 31 rushes of at least 20 yards. So the fact that Arkansas's defense is very good at preventing big plays, that says something there. Mentioned Tomlin coming back for Georgia Southern at quarterback, 6 points against Florida Atlantic. Now they're going against Arkansas. But we all know that transitive property doesn't necessarily always work in college football. So it'll be interesting to see how much of that carries over or doesn't carry over to Arkansas. But Nick, how are you betting on this game, and how are you going to let the people out there make some money on this one?
Christopher, I believe it or not, I'm always taking notes from you and your expertise on this kind of stuff. And one thing I noticed about this game is the importance, and you tell this to me all the time, the importance of if you've identified a game that you like, you may want to get in on it early. And this is a big example of Arkansas opened this game minus 18, and now it's all the way up to 23.5. And as you know, the 5.5 points, especially in that range, is a huge difference, especially when you talk about a team potentially backdoor covering. So if I were putting my own money on this game, I would have loved to have been more aggressive on it earlier in the week when I could have got it at 18 or 19 or even 20 points, because I like Arkansas to win. I think they win big. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to take Arkansas minus a 23.5. But man, I hate giving up that many points, especially with Georgia Southern getting their quarterback back. One that I do like a little bit better than laying all those points is getting the over of 52.5. I think that getting that quarterback back will get Georgia Southern's option offense humming again, assuming he hits the ground running, obviously. And I know that Arkansas's run offense has been explosive, and I don't expect that anything that Georgia Southern's defense throws at them is going to prevent points from hitting the board here. So I think Arkansas gets to 40 again on their own. It's just a matter, can we get a couple touchdowns from Georgia Southern along the way? I think the answer is yes. I think it's over 52.5, and I'm going to tentatively, begrudgingly take Arkansas minus 23.5 before it goes up to like 28 before kickoff, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't think everybody realizes, if you're an Arkansas fan and you're watching this video, you surely realize it. But, for all the comparisons that Sam Pittman is doing what Brett Bielema wanted to do at Arkansas in terms of the style, this is still a Kendall Briles offense, and this is still a team that wants to run pace like crazy, which you may not think of a physical team that wants to run the ball, but they run a lot of plays at Arkansas. So I will take the over 52.5. It's not my favorite bet, but I do think they're going to be running a lot of offense. They're going to be running a lot of snaps. And I will, on the other side, I don't like betting against Arkansas right now. Like I said, 9-3 against the spread under Pittman. But this has just moved too far. Now, I do expect a lot of square money to continue to pour in on Arkansas. Look what they did to Texas. Georgia Southern stinks, all that. But I would not be surprised if you are patient and you watch very closely if this might touch 24 or 24 and a half at some point before kickoff. And if I'm betting on Georgia Southern, I'm probably holding off and seeing if I can get one of those numbers. I don't think this is all of a sudden going to go down to 21. And, 21 and a half to 23 and a half is a bit of a dead zone. So if it did go down to 23, no big deal. But I would be definitely watching out for that 24 number on Georgia Southern. I just think this is such a bad spot for Arkansas, and it's so hard to prepare for a triple option team in between Texas and Texas A&M. And no matter how buttoned up Sam Pittman's program has been, they've got to be feeling good about themselves this week. They've got to be, as Nick Saban said, drinking a little bit of rat poison, and we'll see how they come out and play in this game. But we're on opposite sides on the side, so hopefully this will be one of them that ends up in my camp, so I can get one over on Nick for the regular season standings here. But for Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for the 14, and we'll talk to you next week.